Yeah, are you ready for some laughs? Yeah. Come on and join Psycho 4081. It's the Hot Topics Podcast. It's the Hot Topics Podcast.
Welcome again to another episode of the Hot Topics Podcast. Today we have a distinguished guest. We have Mrs. Robin Harvey, who's a candidate for District 10 in the state of Maryland for the House of Delegates. So for those who don't know the House of Delegates, Maryland has that the bi-chamber set up where they have the Senate and they have the House of Delegates. In New Jersey, you guys call it the General Assembly, and the House of you call them an assemblyman. So she's going to be running for the delegate position. So thank you for joining us. How are you today?
Thank you for having me, and I am doing well. How are you?
Good. I'm just glad to have you on here, and I know that the political season's heating up. It's interesting to see all the people jump in there.
It is.
So you have I've been following you for a little bit, just with the elections and the school board and all that type stuff. But tell them a little bit about yourself, a little background.
Oh, sure. My name is Robin Harvey. I am running for the Maryland House of Delegates in District 10. I was born and raised in Virginia, but I came to Maryland about 30 years ago and planted roots here. I met my husband, Rainier, here. We raised our family here. And I call Maryland home. I am a social worker by profession. Yes. And so I have been serving Marylanders for the entire time I've lived in Maryland. I currently work for the Department of Human Services and Licensing and Monitoring, managing that program. And I have worked in public child welfare just about in every position there is, from a social worker knocking on doors all the way up to the interim director of Baltimore City Department of Social Services. I have been active in my community, serving and working with the NAACP, being appointed a commissioner on the Baltimore County Commission for Women by the councilman for District 1. And most recently, as you said, working as an elected member and vice chair for 3 years of the Baltimore County Board of Education.
Wow. Well, you certainly didn't take the easy way, because that's none of those positions are easy at all. And anyway, but what made you decide to run for the House of Delegates, especially now?
So I think it's a culmination of just where we are in society, some of the things that, we were raised knowing and understanding. So I decided to run because I think we are in an important moment in our community, in our state, and even in our country. I can go back to the 2017 election, and it changed everything. I started to look around and saw how our rights were attempting to roll back our rights, reducing services to some of our most vulnerable citizens, reducing protections in communities. And I believe that what we do for the least of us really matters. That's part of why I became a social worker.
Okay.
And so I couldn't live with that fear, and I knew I had to do something. And so I was confronted with the proverbial, if not you, then who?
Okay.
And so as a social worker, I'm used to advocating, and I understand so much of the struggles of everyday people and how systems can make those struggles worse, intentionally and unintentionally. And so I remember telling my husband that I had to do something. And so I jumped in. And that's when I started really focusing on the community, starting with the NAACP and co-chairing the Security Mall Revitalization Task Force alongside Danielle Singley,
Hmm.
working on the Commission for Women, on issues like human trafficking and domestic violence in Baltimore County, and of course my work on the school board, making sure we support the superintendent in her work to stop a decade-long decline and set BCPS on an upward trajectory of achievement for our students. And then wrap all of that in the fact that Speaker Emerita Adrienne Jones made a decision to retire from the House of Delegates
Oh,
and asked me to consider running for her seat.
so you have an
And so, who
endorsement.
yes, I do. And when Speaker Emerita Jones calls, you answer. I mean, she has she has been an extraordinary role model and provided extraordinary leadership for Marylanders, and I am very honored to have her endorsement and her support.
Well, that's a powerful endorsement.
Yes.
So I've known you've been just your name. I think this is the maybe the we probably met before at a some type of function, but I've seen your name involved in so many things, and obviously you've been involved in a lot of things. So which one of those life experiences or activities prepared you to represent District 10? Which one prepared you the most to represent District 10?
So I think being a social worker has prepared me in some ways for every role I've served. Um, from, working on community causes to being on the Commission for Women and my work on the school board. I see that thread through all of those things because here I can relate. I can relate to young people getting started in life and struggling to carve out a pathway, and getting roadblocks all the time. I can relate to young families just starting out and trying to find a safe and stable housing, juggling bills and childcare, and work. I can relate to, even now opening a BGE bill and saying, wait a minute, this must be wrong
Oh, I can relate to
because this
that.
is too high. You can relate to that,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So, as a social worker, I have met families sometimes on the worst day of their life. I have seen the trauma that contributes to families breaking up and seen hope blossom, like when those families have someone that reaches out a hand to them. And so all of these experiences, understanding community, understanding how to build bridges, understanding how systems work and how they can impact our daily lives, and understanding how to build coalitions so that we all can move together towards a common goal. Understanding how to pick my battles and how to weather storms. I think that's all a part of the training and experience I have had that prepares me to represent District 10 in the Maryland House of Delegates.
Okay, okay, powerful. No, so I know the districts were reformed somewhat this for this particular election season. What do you see as the biggest problem facing the new, I guess it's the new District 10 for the residents today? What do you the biggest problem?
So, of course, we know there isn't just one thing that we want to work on. Families are facing rising costs, high BGE bills. We have economic stagnation, concerns about educating our children. However, I do think that one challenge that kind of moves through all of those issues and can impact all of those issues in our community is the lack of sustained and targeted economic development. I
Okay.
mean, we have strong families and uh, community pride, and but what we don't have is the same level of responsible and community-centered commercial development and reinvestment that other parts of our region may have and do have. I mean, you look at Delaney Valley or Hunt Valley or even Main Street in Catonsville.
Right.
So I am we have long-standing issues, stalled development of major commercial sites. Look at Security Square Mall, aging retail corridors, limited access to transportation, near jobs and services. When I came to Maryland, I did not have a car. And when I tell you I had to walk to the bus stop, to take a bus to the train station, to take the train to another bus stop, to take that bus um, to my job site, and I literally was going straight up Reisterstown Road.
Oh, wow.
And so, yes. So, you know, I believe that systems are designed to achieve exactly the results that we get. And so when our economy and economic activity declines, it affects everything. Our tax base shrinks and is shrinking. Young families reconsider moving into the county because they're not sure they can grow and thrive here. And so we need strategic investment and strong partnerships between the state, the county, and our private sector leaders so that we can make purposeful and coordinated revitalization efforts in our commercial corridors, in our communities, in our streetscapes. So
Okay.
that's a big issue.
Well, as a former resident of Baltimore County on the west side, I can definitely relate to all that you said. And what you said, what's the first bill or policy that you would push for if you were elected to District 10, House of Delegates?
So I appreciate the question, and I'm going to wrap that in some context. So I will be in Annapolis a year from now, and the landscape will have changed. And so what I'm seeing now may not be the reality then.
Okay.
But having said that, two areas of focus that I think will have significant impact on District 10 and Marylanders. First, like I just said, appropriately investing in our commercial corridors and looking at how we can support community-centered redevelopment and investment that modernizes our infrastructure and creates economic and community hubs. That's one. And
Mm-hmm.
then secondly, looking at ways that, and very practically, looking at ways to get gas and electric prices under control.
Okay.
It's a constant challenge for families who are trying to make ends meet in an economy that isn't working for us, to have those bills and concerns about being able to heat or cool their homes, particularly our seniors and people with young children. So those are two areas that I would focus on.
Okay. Now you mentioned the economic aspect, and one of the things that I've heard, even on social media and some of the meetings that I've been to in the past, was about taxes. So, do you believe Maryland residents currently are overtaxed, undertaxed, or fairly taxed?
So I don't think the question is simply whether we're overtaxed, undertaxed, or fairly taxed. I think what we should be asking ourselves is, are our tax dollars being used effectively and producing real results for the
Mm-hmm.
people who pay the taxes?
Okay.
I think we all, as consumers, can say, I know that if I pay this amount for a product, it's a good product, and I'm okay with paying that. So, for example, if we fund economic development incentives, those investments should translate into new jobs, our revitalized commercial corridors, and opportunities for local businesses. And in the same vein, when we invest in public safety, communities should see measurable reductions in crime and stronger support for victims. So the goal should be to make sure public investments are strategic, transparent, and tied to clear outcomes. I believe that when we see that our tax dollars are improving schools, strengthening neighborhoods, and expanding economic opportunity, we'll all have a greater confidence that government is working the way it should be.
Okay. And part of your response would suggest that that strategy would actually bring better paying jobs into your district as well.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. When we talk about any kind of economic revitalization, we understand that jobs is central to success. So I feel a little bit like a broken record, but I think that this highlights how important our commercial corridors and revitalization is to our community. Jobs come with businesses and services.
Right.
So if we're not building the infrastructure that invites businesses in, and I mean small businesses that are invested in the community, we are missing out on opportunities to create jobs. We need to transform underused spaces, create mixed use development, and invest in training and apprenticeships as well. And we also need to make sure that we can do some last mile transportation um, for making sure that that when we have to access public transportation, we can get that last mile to where we need to be so that you
Okay.
don't have to be like me and take a bus to a train to a bus.
So I don't know if you noticed, but I'm a retired police officer, and
Mhm.
I know your husband, obviously retired police officer, and has an extensive background in, crime and public safety. So, with that said, do you think, and I know you guys discuss things like that, do you think current policies are too soft, too harsh, or maybe, balanced on crime?
So I think that we need to look at whether current policies are effective, fair, and producing safer communities.
Okay.
Uh, I think public safety has to focus on strategies that actually reduce crime, hold people accountable when they break the law, support victims, and invest in prevention and community stability. At the same time, we have to acknowledge that our criminal justice system has historically engaged in disparities along racial and lower income lines, and how the laws are enforced and how outcomes affect certain communities. And I think we have to address that as we try to rebuild public trust.
Okay.
So I think the goal is a system that's both effective and equitable. People should absolutely be held accountable if they choose to commit a crime.
Okay.
And we have to make sure that local law enforcement is engaged with communities so that we keep our neighborhoods safe, so that people have trust in our law enforcement apparatuses, and that when communities feel like they're treated fairly, that it strengthens cooperation, which is really important. When something happens in the community, you want the community to rally around and participate with law enforcement in making sure that they can restore safety in that community. So I think accountability is ultimately and I think accountability and building the public trust are equally important, and ultimately public safety benefits for everyone when we have those.
Okay. So, and one of the things that I've noticed on a topic of accountability and trust, a lot of people have a feeling that youth crime is getting out of control, and there's no accountability when it comes to repeat offenders. So, how do you feel the state should address the youth crime and repeat offenders?
Right. So I think the state needs to take a balanced approach that combines strong accountability with prevention and rehabilitation because we are talking about children. Like, I'm a social worker, and so I know we know that behavior does not occur in isolation.
Mm-hmm.
Many young people who enter the justice system have experienced trauma, things like unstable housing, gaps in education, limited access to anything positive in terms of opportunity. And so we can't ignore these underlying factors that make it more likely that youth will cycle through the criminal justice system. We also have to confront the reality of the school to prison pipeline,
Mm-hmm.
where students oftentimes students of color are pushed out of classrooms through excessive suspensions and expulsions, and that increases the likelihood that they will later encounter or get involved with the criminal justice system. And I do believe the schools should be places that keep young people connected to learning and supports and opportunities. At the same time, you have to be accountable, and accountability must be clear and consistent. When young people commit offenses, particularly those repeat offenses, they have to have meaningful consequences along with structured interventions. And so we need to ensure that there's appropriate supervision in the juvenile justice system, that court orders are enforced, that if we have things like home monitoring, that's actually happening, and that if young people make poor decisions and choose to uh, offend again or recidivate, then there should be consequences for that. Because again, systems are designed to achieve exactly the results that you get. And so if we have a juvenile justice system that is not working to hold youth accountable or rehabilitate youth or provide structure and guidance in a way that leads them to make different decisions, then we need to look at that, because the goal is to protect public safety, hold youth accountable for their actions, and reduce the likelihood that they will reoffend.
Okay, and you mentioned the systems. That's kind of segue into the next question about what I think education and the criminal justice system kind of works hand in hand with cause and effects.
Mhm.
What's as far as education, what's working and what's failing in Maryland's public school system?
So, having recently been on the board and served as the vice chair for 3 years, I really um, had an eye-opening experience as to what it takes to move a system forward. Baltimore County is the third largest public school system in the state of Maryland. 108,000 students plus 20,000 staff, 270 something buildings and programs. And so I think what's working is that we're continually, as a system, recruiting strong teachers, making sure our standards are rigorous. I think it's important um, to have high expectations for students, and we're building that into the Baltimore City ethos. There
Okay.
is also a significant investment in education. Putting our dollars where we think it's important matters. And so when we do things like expand pre-K and early childhood education, expand supports for special education, expand opportunities for students to engage in career and technical education training and college credits, we are expanding the success rate for our students. Maryland has a fairly high graduation rate. We have a significant number of schools that are rated 4 or 5 stars. And we have, with the Blueprint for Maryland's Future, incentivized teachers and actually demonstrated that we value them through the way that we compensate them. So we're making major investments and moving forward. I think one of the things that is, I won't say not working, but has been challenging, and we see a very slow growth in, is student achievements in terms of math improved. I don't know if you know, but Baltimore County was on a decade-long decline in terms of student performance in our system. And in just 3 years, under the leadership of Dr. Miriam Rogers, not only did we stop the decline, but we're starting to make small gains in the upward trajectory.
Okay.
And so the gains aren't fast enough for anyone. There's a long way to go. But I think that if we continue to focus on student achievement, equity, and we operate from the belief that every child has a right to a quality public education and every child should have that opportunity, then we'll continue to see strengthening in our performance.
Okay, now do you equate that to funding? So I hear a lot of people say uh, schools need more funding or this program needs more funding. Is that the issue that moves things forward?
Sometimes it's funding, but as I've said earlier, I think that what we need to do when we are trying to be responsible with the money that's entrusted to any system is really look at what is productive, what is producing the results that we're seeking,
Mm-hmm.
and what isn't performing as well. And we need to be able to pivot. We need to be able to adjust rather than continuing to pour money into those things. But, you know, we're talking about, we all say education is the most important thing.
Yeah.
And so if we believe that, then we will make sure that systems have the money that they need and the funding that they need to responsibly um, educate our students. And even now, I'll just say something about community schools. Maryland embraces community schools. Community schools are designed to be a hub in the community to help the community not only with issues around education, but also to help the community in general. If you need food, if you need a service, if you need resources, I can go to the community school.
Okay.
We also know that these are hard economic times. And so community schools that are up and operating are seeing people come in more and more, and they're open to the community. It's not just the families of students, it is literally a community hub.
Right.
And so all of those things, have a fiscal note to them. And so I believe that um, if we want if we believe in education is one of the most important things that we can do to ensure a bright and productive future, that we should make the appropriate investments.
Okay. When I heard the term community schools, it was new to me. But when it was explained, I was like, well, you know what? I grew up with that. And I think I'm from Jersey, and I remember every neighborhood when we went to the schools for after school programs, play sports, clubs, all sorts of things outside of regular school hours. And I didn't realize that was kind of taken away, or everybody didn't experience those things. So I'm glad Baltimore County moved towards that.
Yes, yes, I agree. I think community schools are a vital part of making sure that our students and our families thrive.
Okay, now here comes the hard stuff. Now, all right, anybody knows that I'm very critical of the federal government, especially the elected officials and its appointees, especially now. One of the issues I have is about accountability, and not just accountability, not just saying doing what you said, but actually doing something good. So if elected, how will the voters measure whether you kept your promises?
So I think voters should measure my performance by whether I have governed myself and conducted myself with the mindset of a stateswoman,
Okay.
someone who's not focused on the next election, but on the long-term well-being of our community. So that for me means a couple things. It means voters should see that I am working to solve real problems and move meaningful legislation forward. They should see that I'm working to build consensus and bring people together, that I'm not standing rigid and sacrificing progress just for, the sake of standing rigid. And I think they should see me in the community.
Okay.
They should literally see me in the community and and determine whether I've increase the conversation and strengthen public trust. That means being transparent, that means being accessible, and making decisions that are grounded in fairness, the interests of the community, and grounded in data and evidence.
Okay.
So if Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I like what you said, and that it brought back something something that I just realized. When you said being in the community, I don't think I've ever seen elected officials in the community until I got to Baltimore County.
Well, that's a good
Yeah,
thing.
any place and it was, I thought it was like a new thing, but obviously, I never seen that. I couldn't even tell you, all the places I've been, whether excuse me, whether I was in the Navy or even growing up back home. I don't think we've ever had that. So kudos to this
Yeah, well,
state.
yeah, well, practically speaking, I'm running for District 10 because I live in District 10.
Right.
And so I don't want to isolate myself from my neighbors and the communities that make District 10 the wonderful place that it is. And so I should see people and people should see me.
I agree. And it actually makes people get involved as well. So I think overall, I'm not sure it's done all over Maryland, but I know in our area, District 44, 10, I know it's done, pretty much. And that's something new to me. So kudos for that.
Thank you.
Now, this is going to be a this is going to be a funny one. What is a policy position that you currently have that might cost you votes, but you believe is still right?
So I take I'm a very practical person, and even in my approach to work, I this is my approach, and I think on any policy, this is my approach. And it may not be popular, but my commitment is to equity and accountability for how our public dollars are spent, because we don't have unlimited resources. And so that means that anything that we invest our money in should demonstrate real results. If we're not getting the outcomes we seek or that were intended, we should be willing to review, improve, or redirect those resources to strategies that work better. And that can be uncomfortable because people understandably care about things that they're familiar with, programs and those things. But I think being a responsible leader requires us to look honestly at whether our investments are making a difference in the way that we intended them to.
Okay, I like that. I like that. Um, that's a question that is going to be interesting for any candidate to answer. And I don't know if they have that in the back of their head when they do the campaigning and everything. But there's going to be some policies that's good that people just won't understand, and that may cost votes. So I think that's an important thing. But I have a rapid fire segment. I'm gonna have you 3 questions. Give
Okay.
me single answers.
Single answers. Oh
Single
my
answers.
God.
It's only 3. So
Oh, okay.
higher taxes or spending cuts.
I think that my answer is that we should better use our dollars that we already have, cut spending where we need to, and make sure that the revenue that we currently have is being used to the advantage of the people we serve.
Okay, so that sounds like you're against higher taxes unless you're forced into it. And be realistic. Sometimes, and I debate with people on social media and stuff like that. Sometimes you don't have a choice in that, but spending your money wisely is the better answer. Okay, rent control, yes or no?
So rent control is, I don't think, a one size fits all solution. We have rising housing costs. We have to address those. I'm open to policies that help stabilize housing costs and prevent sudden and extreme rent increases, particularly for working families and seniors and people on fixed incomes. Um, But I think the real answer is increasing our housing supply, supporting responsible development, and protecting renters from unfair practices.
Okay. And I always thought that was more of a county level issue, but it comes up, I guess. Now this is more along your lines. Legalizing more gambling in Maryland or not?
I think Maryland already has enough gambling. We've expanded gambling significantly over probably the past decade, and so before I would consider additional expansion, I think we like I said we should focus on what has been the impact, positive, good, bad, or indifferent, not only to our finances as a state, but to public health
Mm-hmm.
and community improvement.
Okay. And now, just for reference, I'm from Atlantic City, New Jersey. And
Mhm.
when the question came up about gambling in Maryland, I was always against it because I always saw the negative and I realized I was probably biased. I didn't want the competition from my hometown. So, yeah, so that's always a good question to ask people about the gambling. And I haven't set foot in a casino since, in Maryland at all to date. So who knows? Now, in closing, because I know you have to get to your next engagement, in 60 seconds or less, I want you to tell the voters why you deserve their vote over your opponent.
Okay, again, my name is Robin Harvey. I'm running for the Maryland House of Delegates in District 10. I'm asking for your vote. I bring experience, judgment, and commitment to serve District 10 with thoughtful and results driven leadership. I spent my career working directly with families and communities as a social worker and a public servant in Maryland state government, as vice chair of the Baltimore County Board of Education. In those roles, I've worked to strengthen our schools and improve accountability and ensure that our public systems deliver real results for the people that we serve. And and quite frankly, I care. I
Okay.
care about what happens to our families. So I'm proud to have the endorsement of Speaker Jones, whose example of steady leadership and delivering results is one I will work to carry forward. And I am looking forward to joining the District 10 team, Senator Ben Brooks, Delegate Jennifer White Holland, and Delegate Scott Phillips, who are already doing this work and producing results for our communities in District 10. So I'm ready. I'm ready to do the work, and I would be honored to earn your vote.
Outstanding. Now, this is Hot Topics, right? And I built this podcast to talk about controversial things. I'm gonna give you an opportunity if you want to throw in a controversial dig against one of your competitors, if you want.
Look, I am focused on my race. I am focused on doing what I need to do. I believe that our communities are filled with thoughtful, smart, discerning people, and they can look at, everyone's record and make decisions for themselves. And so, again, I'm just asking for your vote and I'm ready to go to Annapolis and do the work. People can learn more about me from my website, www.robinharvey.org. They can learn more, volunteer, and donate to my campaign. Please join the coalition, Robin Harvey for Maryland House of Delegates District 10.
And that's HARVEY.org.
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure everybody knows that. www.robinharvey.org.
Correct.
Okay, good. I wanted to thank you again for coming out and, informing, first of all, the potential voters out there and letting them know, what they have to decide on, what choices they have. And I know you have a very busy schedule. And again, I appreciate you for coming out, and maybe we'll have you on later on with whoever else is on the slate. And
Absolutely.
all right. Well, now for the listeners out there, again, we always have a word of the day where if you get the word of the day for the entire month, you can email us at Hot Topics Podcast, that's TOPIX, Hot Topics Podcast at gmail.com, and you get the surprise prize of the month. So send us an email. Spelling does not count. Whatever the word of the day is for the month of March, let us know, and you have an opportunity to win a secret prize. It's so secret that I don't even know what it is yet. So, but thank you once again, and I'm gonna leave you guys with this song, kind of related to this, but thank you once again.
Thank you so much for having me.
Our first love, she brought 3 kids in. We gave her much pain, no need to pretend. We cried many times, everything was a brand new. She taught us everything we know how to do. She nursed us to health when we got too sick, chosen by our God, never got to pick. Sweet mama, sweet mama's great sacrifice. I'm ever so grateful. They gave us life. Oh, sweet mama's great sacrifice. I'm ever so grateful. They gave us life. Babies to adults, she didn't own. Started really early, 18 barely grown. She struggled and fought, didn't know we were poor. Yeah, Christmas mornings, plenty toys and more. Mama could cook, Thanksgivings were great. Turkey, mac and cheese, collard greens full plate. Sweet mama's great sacrifice. We're ever so grateful. They gave us life. Oh, sweet mama's great sacrifice. We're ever so grateful. They gave us life. Mama's married now, retired, no lie. The torches have passed, Sis, Niecy, and I. 5 grands together, great grandkids are 2. Fun times make memories, many more for you. Time is still flying, granddaughter's up soon. Weekends with grandma, us life. I'm so grateful. We are so grateful. She gave us life.